Hey, man.
What's up?
Have you ever heard of Biosphere 2?
I really hope it's a video game.
It's not.
Or is it a movie then?
No, it's very much a real life thing.
Oh, see, that's what I was worried about. I was worried that it was going to be just a sphere, like Sandy Cheeks' house. Remember Sandy Cheeks, the squirrel, whose name I didn't understand until much later in life. It's a little dome looking thing.
Yeah.
And it says 2, which means the first one everyone died. And then the second one, that's what that feels like. That feels like a place. You know that place, you know what I'm thinking of in Springfield? The QPS place or whatever that does like experimental creams.
Yes. Yep.
If you're unfamiliar with the experimental places, they'll pay you like $2,000 just to stay the night.
Yeah.
And then they'll just rub some cream on your arm and see if your arm is still there in the next morning.
Yeah.
Basically.
If your arm's still there.
Yeah. Like, well, we got this new lotion. Yeah, Johnson & Johnson Ultra Healing actually just shredded somebody's arm. What if that shrunk your arm? Yeah. What if you're like...
We're going to have to call Johnson & Johnson, tell them to change the name from Ultra Healing to Ultra Killing.
Healing?
Ultra Healing, Ultra Keeling.
Keeling?
Keeling.
What are you, Jeff Dunham? His little puppet that says, I keel you?
I did not say keeling. I just said killing.
Oh.
You made it keeling.
I was trying to make it rhyme with healing, I guess.
Yeah,
I thought that's what you were doing.
You know, we went to the moon once. What if we did that to other places?
Well, I don't know. She lost a finger. Maybe like
lay off for a little bit.
Yeah. Inside looks like, you ever been to Bass Pro?
And they just loaded the 200 research staff into the limos.
I'm trying to yes and you right now, but I don't know where we're going to go. Things I learned last night.
Anyways,
whatever.
So Biosphere 2, you are incredibly on the right track.
Is it like a test?
Yeah. Actually. So Biosphere 2 is a Earth system experimental science facility. And so the idea...
Yes.
F. SF.
An SSF.
An SS.
A what?
An Earth system science research facility.
That's not what you said before.
Yeah, I changed it.
An Earth system
science
right.
research facility. So basically the idea is...
what happened to Biosphere 1? Are we going to get there?
Yeah.
No,
we'll get
right.
there.
Hold on. You know what I'm going to ask.
What?
Where is this thing?
It's on Earth.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay, so Biosphere 2 was built in the late 80s.
Okay.
By a billionaire oil tycoon who was very concerned with the environment. His name is Ed Bass.
That feels like an oxymoron.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
It is
I'm really concerned with the environment. I don't know what's causing all this bad stuff to happen.
It's called a PR campaign. If your oil company is really spending a lot of money on helping the environment, then you look better.
He's like, yeah, I mean, sure. Are we killing just everything in our path? Yes. All right.
But have you seen Biosphere
2? What about Biosphere 1? Are we killing everything in our path? Yes. Have you seen Biosphere 2? Ed, what about the first one? He's like, I don't want to talk about the first one.
If we could just not talk about it, that'd be great.
Yeah, he treats these spheres the way he treats his ex-wives. I only want to talk about the second one.
Oh my gosh.
Ed, whatever, bass?
Ed Bass.
All right.
It's spelled like a bass guitar.
Great.
So he, so he's an
Super
oil
rich,
tycoon, really,
oil
really rich.
guy,
And so he
destroying
invested,
the world and then pretending he's saving it.
Yeah, so he invested $150 million in this biosphere concept. And the idea was really twofold. One, it was a place where you could learn a lot about planet Earth, right? Remember, this is the early 90s. Captain Planet is in full swing.
Yeah.
People are all of a sudden realizing Earth is important. We need to take care of it. And so this is a big cultural shift in thinking, even for oil tycoons. They're starting to think of things differently. So there's that.
Do you
side
think
of it.
that oil tycoons in the late 80s were like, whoops, like we didn't know? Yeah. Or do you think they were like, they all found out? Which one do you think it is?
I think it's more of a whoops, we didn't know, plus a don't let this get out.
Okay, so you think that they had that moment earlier, probably in like the 70s. They were like,
maybe,
whoops,
maybe,
and then in the 80s they were like, oh man,
they're
everybody's
finding out.
This. Let's build some spheres.
Yeah, build a biosphere. We knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Where's Ed Bass?
Go ahead and build 2 of them.
So Ed Bass, but the other idea was this was also the early 90s. We were like, hey, we went to the moon once. What if we did that to other places?
What do you mean? What if we did that to other places?
Like went there.
Why would that be how you worded that? What are you talking about? Hey, we went to Chicago once. What if we did that to other places?
Other places.
What if we just went to other... Are you talking about if they went to other planets?
Yeah.
In the 90s, people were like, we should go to Mars?
Yeah. But everyone was like, obviously, like we can't survive on Mars.
I see where we're going here.
So we need to figure out a way to do that. So the biosphere was...
I hate that oil tycoons were like, all right, let's figure out a way to live on other planets because this one's going downhill. And it's like, but that's your fault.
Because we're running out of oil, and I wonder if they have some there.
Do you think that's the real reason?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Well, if that was the case, wouldn't they just go to war with Mars?
Shoot Mars down.
Let's just start an unnecessary war in the middle Mars area.
Mars area.
Let's see if we can capture the oil. It's pretty fun. Pretty fun.
You were actually surprisingly on the right track. They took this $150 million and in the desert north of Tucson, which, by the way, I just have to get this out. As I normally do, watched a bunch of videos explaining this. And a guy called Tucson, Arizona. And didn't, like, multiple times, called it Tuscan.
Oh, several times. Not a mistake.
Arizona.
Yeah.
So anyways, in the deserts outside of Tuscan, Arizona, they took that $150 million and they built this gigantic...
Holy cow.
Facility.
If you're an audio listener, imagine just a bad guy's lair. You know? That's crazy looking.
Yeah, imagine the type of greenhouse you could build with $150 million.
And they called this a sphere? No wonder we're still on Earth. Doesn't look anything like a sphere.
So this facility,
what are these other buildings around? There's a barn over there. So you're telling me somebody's house. Look at that, there's a barn.
Yeah, there's a farmer.
Is that related to this?
I don't think so. I think that's a nearby farm.
Imagine you've got your farm in Tuscan, Arizona, right? And you're just out there in Toucan, Arizona. And so you've got your farm, right? And all of a sudden, just freaking people in weird gray suits show up. That's what they wear around here. And they've all, like, it looks like straight up like an Austin Powers villain would live here.
It 100% does.
And they start building this monstrosity.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
that you just have to look at every day.
Yeah.
What's this little thing sticking up from the center right there?
That's the library. I don't know.
The what did you just say?
The library.
Did you hear it too? What are you, stupid?
Look, we've established a long time ago that I say stuff weird. We don't have to keep rehashing that.
Is that like a lookout station?
I think, I don't know. I honestly don't know what's up there.
Now this looks
it is
almost temporary. Like it looks like it's made out of temporary things. Is that
it's
accurate?
very much not. It's very much not.
Okay.
So this facility, it's listen to this. So basically, if you look at this, each of these pyramids and then that big mid
That's right, audio listener. He said pyramids. That's what the audio listeners aren't seeing this picture right now.
Oh yeah, right.
And you just said pyramids.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't scream the Illuminati did this, I don't know what does.
Yeah, so there's to paint the picture, there's these two very large glass pyramids and then a gigantic glass structure connecting them. It's like a giant greenhouse. And then coming off the side of the middle of it, there is a large white building with very big windows and a lot of them in diamond shapes.
Yeah.
And then a tower in the middle that just reaches towards the sky.
The best way I would describe this is if, you know how they built a bunch of like airports in the 80s and 90s and they were like, this is really cool architecture.
Yeah.
It's that.
Yep. And then off the back of that white structure, there's more greenhouses coming off the back of it.
Those are greenhouses? Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And then behind one of the pyramids, there's a big dome. There's actually another dome that's not in this picture.
Yeah. Looks like the top of a water tower, but no tower.
Yeah, actually.
Just the water.
And this facility also does have a big office complex that's not pictured.
Okay.
And then like a couple warehouses and stuff
Sidewalks
nearby.
and good green grass.
Yeah, beautiful green lawn, which it was not sustainable in
That's
Tuscan.
what I'm saying. Yeah.
They were very concerned about the environment, but they weren't concerned to do anything that actually helped. They instead built this gigantic building and powered it.
So what was in here?
So this was split up. Basically, the idea is they created every biome in the planet on this in this building, and the idea was to recreate the environment of planet Earth inside this building and have it be completely self-sufficient. So they laid down this thick layer of steel, so that way there was no way it was like integrating with the soil below.
Right.
And then they put in their own soil. And then,
that's interesting.
And then
Good tactic.
over the course of a few years, they started to cultivate this into different biomes. And they were very careful to make sure there was no contamination from the outside world from it. So it was all basically its own replicated Earth. The idea was to duplicate the experience if we were to go to Mars and try to create a facility like this where we would have to survive in.
Right.
That's what they were trying to do. So inside
you would have to import so much dirt, though, I think.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. They probably took it from the farm next door.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there was a 20,000 square foot rainforest in one of these. They did a 9,000 square foot ocean, which I can show you that. Actually, I have a picture of that. This is their 9,000 square foot ocean, which seems
stupid,
way smaller than 9,000 square feet in the picture.
It looks like a long swimming pool.
Yeah, it does. But inside this, they actually grew.
Inside looks like, you ever been to Bass Pro?
Yeah, it does. On the other end of this, there's a beach. And then they actually grew a coral reef in here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, inside this ocean. So,
yeah, that's what Mars needs.
A coral reef.
Yeah. How are humans going to survive without the coral reef?
There was
I'm surprised he put it in there because he's, well, I was out of guilt because that's what he's destroying out in the oceans, right?
He wanted to see if he could recreate it.
It was
He's
like,
"Can I plant
that's
a
like
coral
the
reef?"
one thing I'm actively killing every day. Can we?
Can we try that?
He saw, Finding Nemo wasn't out yet, I guess.
No, yeah. This inspired Finding Nemo.
The Biosphere.
They did a 4,800 square foot mangrove wetlands.
Did they have any livestock in here?
Yeah, they did. A 14,000 square foot savanna, and then a 15,000 square foot desert, which I do actually have a picture of the desert as well for you to see. Which I mean, calling it Bass Pro was a very good
Yeah.
example.
I mean, it feels like a theme park so far.
Yeah. It's got these gigantic.
Are these tourists? They're just walking through?
Yeah, it is open to tourists these days.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They didn't used to have all these bridges and stuff walking around it. Those are for the tourists.
Yeah.
But obviously, they created this environment in here for all of these.
Was the
things.
idea that, like, so without all these wood paths and touristy things,
Yeah.
did they have, like, the animals?
Yeah. Yeah. So there was, at one point, over 3,000 species of animal and plants surviving in here. Both.
Like, did they have rattlesnakes in this desert?
I mean, I doubt they put rattlesnakes in the desert.
Why wouldn't they?
Because rattlesnakes kill you.
Yeah, well, they were on the ark.
The Ark was actually Biosphere 1.
That's hilarious. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. We love our listeners a lot, and one way that you can let us know you're here is by leaving a podcast review. Maybe that's a 5-star thing in the Apple Podcast app. Maybe you listen on Spotify, or if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment. We do read all the comments and reviews. We just love knowing what you think about this show. Also, if you haven't yet, go check out some of our other episodes. My current favorite is the Identical Strangers episode. It's 3 brothers or triplets who were separated at birth, unbeknownst to them or their parents, as part of a really weird experiment. So there's a lot of really fun stuff we talked about in that episode, but thank you for checking this out. Now back to this one.
Anyways, so they also had
We all know what happened to that.
a 20,000 square foot agricultural system. And so they had like a farmland that they were farming. And then they also had a human habitat. So that was
They had a human habitat?
A human habitat. So they had a place that looked like New York.
Starbucks?
That was the white facility here. So this big white building
Okay.
had apartments and offices and a kitchen, like all the stuff that you would have
In life.
in home.
All the stuff that you would have if you were a human, you know? What are you talking about? They had couches, pretty crazy stuff, man. Yeah.
So here's where this all culminates, though.
Okay.
So they built this massive thing, and they were going to do some research in it. But the exciting part of this was their manned missions that they had planned.
Their
And
manned missions?
Yeah. So
To what?
in September 26, 1991,
Okay.
they had a crew of 8, 4 men and 4 women, who they locked in there for 2 years with literally no contact to the outside world. Like they were like, we're not going to open the doors.
And they were like, go forth and multiply. And then they found the forbidden fruit, right? And so I'm paraphrasing, but you get it.
They got kicked out of the biosphere.
Ed Bass. Which sounds more like his legitimate name. You're saying Ed Bass, but you also will listen to a guy say Tuscan. Ed Bass, first of all, sounds exactly like an oil tycoon.
Yeah.
All right. And you know that he's got one of those floppy basses on his wall, you know? So it's 4 men, 4 women locked in this sphere, right? With an Ed Bass on the wall that communicates all the things they need to know.
Yeah.
Twice a day, the Ed Bass goes. Do you ever see one of those?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're like,
what's that McDonald's commercial? What if it were you hanging up on this wall? You know that commercial?
No.
If it were you, you wouldn't be laughing at all.
no, I watched TBN.
I think it was a filet of fish commercial for McDonald's.
Was it?
Yeah, and they had the bass and it was singing.
And they were like, ha, we killed fish. What was the point of
I
that?
think so, actually.
They were like, yeah, we got them.
yeah, we killed them all, but
Yeah.
you're not dead, so you can eat them.
Don't worry. Our fish are just bioengineered in the sphere. So they put four men, 4 women,
Yeah.
and they were like, we're not going to talk to you for 2 years.
Yeah, they were like, see if you make it out alive.
No matter what happens.
Yeah. Well, that's what they said. So here's what happened. So the idea was, if we sent someone to Mars,
What,
and we
were
built
they
a facility
monitoring them
like
on
this-
cameras the whole time?
Yeah, they had a team that was keeping track of them.
So these people were just on Big Brother in real life.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah, 100%.
And
it,
they lived in, you're telling me they had, what did you call them? Apartments? What are the people?
apartments.
What do the people
apartments? Apartments.
Apartments? What did the people have?
They're apartments. So yeah, so they put them in there. There was
2 months in, they all were like, we're done.
it was 7 volunteers and one person
One person who didn't want to do it. 7 volunteers and 1 involunteer. Oh man. 7 people who were like, let's do it. And 1 person that they had to drag by their ankles into the sphere.
I don't want to go to the biosphere.
Just to cause some drama. They had so many people wanting to do it too. It's not like they got 7 and they were like, we got to find somebody else. It's like they narrowed it down to 7 and then they were like, all right,
Now we got to go
go grab the
one
farmer.
more.
The farmer was like, my dirt. You know?
This is where all my dirt went. Yeah, so no, it was 7 volunteers, just random people off the street, and then the 8th.
They asked them though first,
the
right?
8th, yeah, the
Random
8th,
people off the street.
The 8th was a doctor and researcher, so he was kind of there in case something goes wrong. He can solve the problems, unless he's the one that goes wrong too.
Yeah.
Things started out decent. They were like, okay, well, we're gonna have to start planting some crops, doing some ag work, because all the food was going to come from what they did in the sphere. So they had to plant crops, they had to grow their own food or hunt. Because I mean, there's
how many
animals in there? There's 3,000 species of plants and animals.
And you could go to any of the biomes?
Yeah, they could go to any of the biomes. You swing over the desert, it gets a little too hot there, go to the beach. Whatever you want to do, take a dip in the ocean.
This was just their...
Yeah, this was a replicated Earth, essentially.
They made the Garden of Eden.
Kinda, yeah. Actually.
And they were like, go forth.
Yeah.
And
they're like, name all the animals. And they're like, but these animals are already named. They're like, give them new ones.
Okay.
Try again.
Jeff. I'm sorry, did you just name that deer after yourself? I don't know what a deer is. I know what a Jeff is. Jeff. We had to change it a couple days in because we realized that Jeff hunting was pretty confusing.
Here's the thing.
How fast do they resort to cannibalism?
They never resorted to cannibalism.
Okay.
They probably got pretty close. So here's the thing.
Was there any way for them to communicate? Like if things did go horribly wrong?
I mean, they could bang on the windows. So here's the thing. The whole thing is this giant glass facility, and this got a lot of publicity. So
people were just outside?
No joke. Yeah. This was...
No way.
This was like, what's that movie with Jim Carrey?
The Truman Show?
Yeah, this is like the Truman Show. There was all these people in the glass, like watching through the windows, watching what was going on their whole life, and film crews coming and filming through the glass. And everybody was watching this on TV. I don't know if everybody was.
I was.
But a lot of people were watching this on TV, super invested in what was going on in the biosphere to see if this was going to be like a successful mission. Well,
is this still Biosphere 2 we're talking about right now?
Yes, this is Biosphere 2.
Are you going to tell me what happened on the Biosphere 1?
So Biosphere 1, it's a dumb thing. They're like, Earth's Biosphere 1, and they're like, this is Biosphere 2.
Oh, really? That was it?
That was it. It was just kind of dumb.
Why didn't you just say that earlier?
I don't know.
Can we edit this and put that part in earlier? Just out of context?
Just cuts it.
Not even like
and then
don't
you
even
say,
don't even
that's
try
it?
to don't
Why
even
did
try
you say
to,
that earlier?
Yeah, don't even try to make it make sense. Just all right.
And then 15 minutes later they'll get to this point and they're like, oh, okay. Now I see.
How hard was that to say though? You could have said that earlier.
I don't know.
I don't know. I thought I'd think of something.
I thought I was going to set it up and then I didn't. Anyways, this experiment didn't go super well. a few days into the whole thing, one of the volunteers, I believe it was Jane Pointner, I believe, she was working in the farm, cultivating some stuff or something like that. And she stuck her hand in some heavy machinery and ripped off one of her fingers. Which the doctor in the facility could not fix on his own. So they had to send her out to go to the hospital to go to surgery. Yeah. And so she left the facility to do surgery and eventually came back. When she came back, she brought a duffel bag.
Her name was what?
Jane Pointer.
I didn't say anything. I just asked what her name was.
She came back and Jeff was like, "Hey, I think we need to change your name.
We got to change your name." All right.
Oh, man. So she comes back with a duffel bag full of like supplies. And when she did that, everybody was like, hey, that's against the rules. Like, I thought they were supposed to be like self-sufficient. And
the people outside were like that.
Yeah, everybody outside was like, you're not supposed to be able to do that.
Well, I don't know. She lost a finger. Maybe like...
like lay off for a little bit.
Yeah.
She had to change her name because of this.
Give her some time, man. Well, let her have a pizza cutter in there, you know?
So that was kind of knock number one for this experiment, right?
Yeah.
Some other problems started to surface. The biggest one being when they built this structure, so much of it was built with concrete. There's concrete walls, there's concrete in the struts holding up all the glass, and they didn't give the concrete enough time to cure. So when they closed the environment in, the concrete started absorbing some of the, I can't remember what molecules, hydrogen molecules, I think, basically breaking down the oxygen and splitting up the oxygen so there was less oxygen in the environment.
Oh.
So they started running out of oxygen really quickly. And so instead of...
it's very ironic that you're out of breath right now.
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it, and it's stressing me out. It's making me run out of breath.
It's kind of like you're getting lightheaded over here.
If you've ever been out of breath, if you haven't been out of breath before, let me describe it to you by coming out of breath. And so you can hear a little bit of what it feels like.
How were they running out? Were the plants not producing enough?
So they were, but the problem was it's something about the concrete not being fully cured. I don't know what part of the oxygen molecule it was absorbing, but it was absorbing part of that molecule.
Sealed to the outside.
Yes, yeah. So there's nothing coming in. There's no air coming in from the outside, nothing like that. This is a completely self-contained environment.
Yeah.
And so the concrete was absorbing part of that oxygen.
Do you know what kind of levels they were at, like oxygen levels in there?
I don't know at this point, but I know over the course of the next 7 months, they depleted to a 14% oxygen level. And so through this whole point, it got to the point where Jane actually, she wrote a book after this, and she said, it got to the point where we had such little oxygen that we had to plan out our energy usage because we were so tired after the smallest of tasks because we couldn't breathe fully. And so they were existing in this world where they basically didn't have much air. They described it like if you were a climber and you were at the summit.
High altitudes.
Yeah, high altitude. But that was all the time. And they were trying to do all this physical labor to try to make food and eat and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to hunt Jeffs with no oxygen. Well, I think the plural is still Jeff.
You see that Jeff got a 10-point Jeff out in the desert
Yeah.
biome? this weekend?
How many point?
10 point.
Show me on your hands.
I can only show you 9. So they started really.
Were there deer in there?
I don't know if there were deer in there. I know there was cattle. I know there was tons of different species of fish, lots of insects, lots of birds.
What insects? Why would you put insects in there?
Because insects are vital to the environment.
Which ones?
All of them.
No. Wrong. Bzz. We need a little buzz. No.
Pick one.
Wasps.
Yes, they're vital.
Why?
They kill the stuff that hurts stuff. They keep the insect population down. It's like spaying and neutering your pets. Wasps are the natural spay and neuter for the insect population.
How is that what you just came to? Okay. They kill what?
All the other insects that can get overrun and then eat your stuff.
I'll let it. Whatever.
Well, what happened while we're talking about this, whenever Jane left, somehow this local ant.
What did you just say? This local ant?
Yeah, one of the farmers.
She came over and she was like, "Not my nephew. My nephew is the involunteer in there, and I'd like to get him out."
When Jane left, some local species of ant, one of them got in, or a couple of them got in, and invaded and killed out a bunch of the other insects, and it messed up the whole ecosystem. Because this was like a domineering predator type ant that was local to Tucson, Arizona.
Okay. Okay.
But not to the biosphere. Anyways, that was a sidebar I wasn't going to bring up. But anyways, it's interesting.
Well, if only they had more wasps to kill them.
Yeah, it could have solved the problem. Hey, thanks again for listening to this episode. If you like our show, make sure you follow us on social at TILLN Podcast or subscribe anywhere where you're listening to right now, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, whatever it is. And if you want more, we do have a Patreon you can support us on. In there, you get all sorts of perks like ad-free episodes, early access to our content, and even a Discord with our hosts and producers. So we'd love for you to check that out. All you got to do is text TILLN to 66866. That's TILLN to 66866. But thanks again for checking us out. So they spent all this time like trying to figure out how to regulate their energy so they didn't use too much oxygen. So they're conserving their energy while the researchers on the outside were like, hey, we need to solve this problem. So they shipped in a bunch of oxygen containers and started pumping it into the environment. The world outside found out about this and they were again frustrated. They said it was supposed to be a self-contained environment and you're pumping oxygen into there. Like they need to figure this out on their own. They need to plant some more trees.
We want to watch them die.
They need some arbor. They need to plant an arbor day.
You know how we figured it out? We were like, they're still alive. This has got to be outside interference.
They got to be doing something different in here. So they're pumping oxygen in there. So it kind of got to the point where the public was like, you're not doing what you said you were doing. And they lost interest.
Yeah.
Which started losing money.
Yeah.
And eventually, the crew on September 26, 1993, so actually 2 years later, came out. But when they came out, they were all very severely malnourished. They're in pretty bad physical shape. But they did survive the full 2 years. But they didn't reach the same like critical acclaim that they expected because it wasn't self-sustained.
They came out. They were expecting to open the door and be like crowds of people.
Yeah,
high fives all around, like,
yeah.
We get it. And they came out to like Ed Bass, who was like,
you guys did it. I'm proud of you.
I'm just imagining Doug Dimmadome. No, you guys survived.
Yeah.
Honestly, thought you wouldn't. I forgot we did this. It's been 2 years.
It's been 2 years.
Clinton's in office now. Hey, was he in office already? When was the election?
I think
was it 92?
I think he was already. I think it would have been 90.
No.
Yeah, no. Wait. 90? Yeah, 92. It would have been 92.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would have missed it.
They missed it, yeah. Bummer. You think they got to vote?
No. I think that was a plan all along.
We've done the math, Mr. Clinton, and we're going to be 8 votes shy. I have an idea.
But let's say it's for the planet. It's all about PR.
Call up my friend Bass.
Bass. Mr. Bass sounds like a YouTube streamer who does like just, you don't, you know.
So
what's up, guys? I'm Mr. Bass. He's got the highest pitched voice because he's 12. You know. Anyway,
a couple interesting things happened within the Biosphere.
Yeah.
They split into 2 factions because they disagreed on how to use their resources, and so it was actually, coincidentally enough, a group of 2 men and 2 women on each faction.
Okay.
And they were like enemies.
Did any of them know each other going in?
Yeah, they actually. Jane, she mentioned that. The 2 women in the other faction were her best friends coming in, and now they don't speak to each other because it became so hostile in there that they literally, like, they all hoarded resources for their faction, and they split into like these little tribes basically, and they wouldn't share with each other, which is very odd.
Imagine that you don't have any oxygen, right? You're constantly just like, and then like. You're in a group of 4 people, not even like a tribe, you know?
You're a road trip.
Yeah. You're a road trip. I was going to say, you wouldn't get a table at Olive Garden. You're still a booth.
Yeah. You
know?
You're 100% a booth.
Yeah. And then, but you're still trying to do like intimidation things. Like you're still out in the rainforest, just like, you know? You're like, what?
I picture them climbing the trees in the rainforest and like throwing rocks on each other.
Yeah.
Like ambushing them. Like steal his
But
meat.
there's only 4 of them.
Yeah. And so they came out, they were all like enemies of each other. And they had very, very different responses to their experience. One was very against their time in the Biosphere. The other one thought that it was difficult, but a useful experience. And so when the Biosphere team said, hey, let's do this again, and they got a new group of volunteers and one involunteer. The faction that was against it, they came and they broke in to the Biosphere.
Wait. After the new people were in?
Yeah, so the new people were in. They were trying the survival sphere.
Right? They're in their factions.
Yep.
They're in their road trip groups. And you just hear... right? People are throwing rocks or whatever. And then you hear glass break and everyone goes, okay, wait. All right, this has gone too far. You know, and then all 8 people are like, we didn't do that.
We didn't do that. And then you look up the side of the pyramid and you see these 3 people crawling through the broken glass.
Imagine the Biosphere is haunted. How? You know? Can spirits make it through the concrete mix?
I don't know. It depends how thick it is. But this was a big ordeal.
There was some invasive Tucson ghosts.
This was a big deal because now they had to patch that window.
Yeah.
And there was some oxygen bleed. And so the oxygen was missing with the desert oxygen. And it was a huge problem for their biosphere environment. And also, there was a huge pressure issue. We haven't covered this yet, but those domes outside the facility, you see there's one in this picture. There's a second one on the other side.
Yeah.
Those are, you're not going to believe this, the facility's lungs. And so on the inside, there's a giant diaphragm. You can kind of see this big rubber diaphragm at the top connected to this massive steel plate with some struts on it to make sure it never deflates below. That steel plate and that rubber at the top is 100% held up by air pressure. It's 40,000 pounds. And it's literally, the way they designed it is the air pressure from within the facility moves out to those lungs and inflates and deflates the lungs to make sure the pressure doesn't go too high. And the reason for this...
Hold on. So is the roof of this going up and down the whole time?
No, so the dome goes all the way up. So it's possible for this to inflate to the point to where it's a full dome, or it just deflates back down. Does that make sense?
And when it deflates, it's pushing air
back into the facility. And the reason for this is because they're in Tuscan, Arizona, and it's a desert. And so during the day, it's very, very hot. And in the evenings, it gets very, very cold. And that change in air pressure, if they didn't do something to regulate it within the facility, it would literally explode. All the glass windows would blow up.
Tight.
And they were like, we don't want that. And so they had to figure out a way to regulate the air.
We don't want that.
They had to figure out a way to regulate the air pressure, so they built gigantic lungs for the whole facility.
This was presented as a joke, though. Somebody in the meeting was just like, what if the building had lungs?
What if we gave it lungs?
And Ed Bass, whatever, was over there holding an actual bass. Just
Yeah, that was big in the 90s.
What did you just say? What if the building had lungs?
I think that's it.
Say it again.
What if the building had lungs? Lungs?
Lungs. Well, when you're this rich, what else are you going to spend my money on but building lungs? Let's build some lungs. Sir, there are like 4 children at the hospital down the street that need lungs. Would you be willing to donate that money to get them new lungs?
Just hook them up to
I'll
the building.
tell you who else need lungs is my Biosphere. So let's use that money to build some building lungs. Though that sentence sounds like building is a cuss word. Build some building lungs. This is bonkers to look at.
Yeah, it's insane. And what's wild is it's literally 40,000 pounds, that big metal diaphragm and the rubber holding it. But I've seen videos, people will grab those poles and you can literally pull it down because it's very malleable.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's insane. And this is, while we're talking about this too, there's a gigantic, they call it the undersphere. Underneath this entire facility.
Is this water? Or is that a pit?
I think it's blood.
Okay.
I think it might be water. I don't know. But underneath the whole facility is this massive underbelly, kind of like Disneyland or Disney World, I think they call it the tech sphere, actually, the tech sphere. And that's where all the magic happens. They have got a bunch of pipes and HVAC and all this stuff.
Yeah, I would assume that this...
there's a lot going on.
I would assume it's not just an open tunnel. It's like, well, let's hope that air gets back that way.
No, yeah. So they've got a big, huge system keeping all this alive underground. But anyways, back to the experiment. So yeah, the people broke in and they had to patch that quickly to be able to save the experiment. While after that, things started going downhill fast. There's a lot of decisions made by the research team that hurt their publicity. And one day, 2 limos escorted by armed guards pulled into the facility and changed all the locks and kicked everybody on the research team out. Left the people inside, though, that were part of the experiment. And they told the researchers, you're not a part of this anymore. And then they left. And then the next day, a whole new research staff showed up.
Who were in the limos?
I don't know, the president. Probably Ed Bass. I don't know. I honestly am not sure. But probably a combination of Ed Bass.
I thought the limos were pulling up and taking the 8 people out.
No, they stayed. The eight people watched from their glass. They saw these limos pull up.
I don't know. There's 2 limos pulling up.
The entire research
They got
team,
binoculars?
They probably built them. They had all the resources they need.
Oh, no. Just do your hands. Use your hands.
And all the research team is being carted out in shackles.
In shackles?
And they see the limo door open up, and it's a pirate with a peg leg, and he's got a hat and a knife edge.
What did you just say? Why did you go this
In
way?
the 90s, pirates drove limos. Had a decal on the door that said ARG.
Where did this come from? What is this? So a pirate.
And they just loaded the 200 research staff into the limos.
I'm trying to yes and you right now, but I don't know where we're going to go if I do this. No, are you saying they made the research people walk the figurative plank?
Yeah, they're all gone.
So the research people leave.
Yeah.
The next day, so those 8 people are just in the building alone at night.
Yeah, just watching and being like, what the heck is happening? A whole new team shows up, and they do their thing for a couple months, and then eventually Ed Bass is like, project is canceled.
Shut it down.
Yeah, and so they kick them out of the Biosphere, and he
Don't tell the participants.
He lists it for sale. They sell it to a company that was going to put up a bunch of hotels on the land. They were going to like level it and build some hotels. They could keep the lungs.
Yeah.
Keep the lungs.
Oh, yeah. This is really going to keep our hotel going.
No, but what ended up happening is they didn't have the funding to build the hotels yet. So they leased it to the University of Arizona to do research there. And it went really well. Eventually, the University of Arizona bought it. And now it is a research facility for the college. And what they use it for now is they're studying earth science, but it's useful because there is no other place in the world where you can have a closed environment to manipulate things that happen in the environment and see the effects.
Okay.
And so they're causing droughts and watching what happens to droughts and trying to fix the problem in this biosphere. And they're doing interesting experiments like that.
I'm glad they're doing that there instead of out in the real world like they used to.
What would happen if, I don't know, there was a fire?
You know that's what the ultra rich is doing, though. All right, the ultra rich is like, what if we just burn the Midwest?
What if we just, I don't know, destroyed it all?
Yeah. Can we send a hurricane?
Here's what's crazy. You mentioned this, and I'm a little frustrated that you did.
Oh, sorry.
But I mentioned that this was a huge deal, and people were watching it. People were coming and
Big Brother
observing it. This is the birthplace of reality TV. Reality TV did not exist before this, and TV companies noticed the ratings of everybody wanting to watch these people live in this sphere. And in Europe, a year later, Big Brother came out as the first reality TV show. And so Big Brother's literally based on this, of people watching these people try to survive in the biosphere.
Nice.
So,
wow, I nailed that.
yeah, I hate how on
So this one was just Big Brother Safari Edition.
Big Brother Survivor Edition.
I guess, yeah, it's both of them combined.
Yeah, it put them together. But it's pretty wild. Like the stuff that they've built in here, it's just a massive facility. They proved that it would be very, very tough to do this on Mars.
Yeah.
Because every experiment they did, they needed a lot of outside help.
Yeah.
But
also, some of the main problems were caused by outside contaminants.
that is also true. That is also true.
So,
Which would still exist on Mars. If
Yeah.
you open the door once, you're dead, basically.
well, yeah.
Because if the Martian ants show up, that's an invasive species.
Yeah, you see them coming, though. They're huge.
They're gigantic. So, anyways, Spaceship Earth is a documentary that came out about it. It's on Hulu. You can watch more for more information.
Do you want to talk into your microphone right now?
No, because I don't want people.
Spaceship Earth.
I don't want people to go look it up.
Watch about it if you want to look that up later. And
I want to reference it, but I don't want
What are you,
people to
stupid?
go do it.
You know how these things work, right?
I want to reference it, but I don't want people to do it. Anyways, so and it's now open to the public-ish. You can go do tours sometimes and see it if you live in Tucson, Arizona. It's a massive facility.
I think you fully embraced Tuscan. I think you have fully.
I'm calling it. For
I know you know you were like, this is really
funny to
stupid,
me.
and now you're doing it without hesitation. I think it's just part of your vernacular now. It's pretty wild. Well, you know, we would be good at like this reality TV thing.
Like living in the biosphere?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
We should do it.
I can't breathe with 100% oxygen that the earth gives us.
That's true.
So,
but like we could figure it out. Just late at night, you just hear me going, and then. But what's wild is if it gets real still in the desert, you hear that little shh because they got rattlesnakes in there for some reason.
Yeah, it was a bad choice.
And some fiddles. Hey, if you like this episode, we've got more of them you can watch here, or just some highlights, some of our favorite parts from episodes before. Please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any future episodes, and leave a comment and let us know how we're doing. So thank you for being a part of this community. We'll see you again on the next episode of Things I Learned Last Night.